Hi, welcome back to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith. In our series, we take a game, we show you how to play it, and then over the following episodes, we actually play the game. And where possible, we put a seat at the table just for you so you can play along with us and help us make decisions between episodes. In doing this, we believe that by the end of the series, you'll be able to decide for yourself whether or not a game would be a good fit for you, your family, or your gaming group. Now, in this series, we're going to be playing the game Mice and Mystics by Plaid Hat Games. If you haven't already, we have a first episode where we talk to you about how to play the game. We give you a lot of the rules, as well as give you the setup for the first scenario that we'll be playing here. So if you haven't watched that, I strongly recommend you go back and watch that first. We'll have a link to it in the show description here in this episode, as well as on the screen. So after you watch that, come on back, and then we'll resume our playthrough of Mice and Mystics. Each time you play Mice and Mystics, you're going to be playing one of the scenarios, or chapters as they call them, from the storybook. The storybook comes with 11 different chapters you can play through. And sometimes the chapters have optional side quests that you can do within them. So you don't have to complete the side quest to finish the mission, but you may want to change the gaming experience. Or sometimes it provides you with a special perk that will help you out later in the game, particularly if you play the campaign mode, which allows you to play chapter after chapter after chapter through this larger story. And really the reason why they call them chapters and this a storybook is because this game has a lot of narrative. Before you begin each chapter, there's going to be a bit of text that you need to read through that will set the stage for what's going on with your heroes and what you as players are going to be doing. Now, rather than spoil the details that are in the chapter, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how we got to where we are, so that if you decide to pick up the game for yourself, you'll be able to enjoy the narrative yourself as a fresh read-through. Mice tell the story of a good human king who fell in love with a secretly evil being known as Venestra. Now the prince and his friends, they caught on to Venestra's evil schemes, but before they could act against her, she had them imprisoned. Thankfully, Meganos, the king's own mystic, was there with them, and he devised a plan to transform them into mice so that they could escape. However, once they were transformed, Venestra realized what they were trying to do and transformed the prison guards into evil rats to chase after them. And that's where we're going to start our adventure here in the king's own prison, as we've just been freshly transformed into mice with 3 rat warriors out to get us. So our objective in this adventure is to get all of our mice to the courtyard, clear it of enemies, and then take refuge in the giant tree there. Now, if you look at the starting tiles here, you'll notice there is no courtyard. So we're going to have some exploring to do, maybe have to flip some of these tiles and find that courtyard. Of course, there is another way this game can end. We could lose. And the way we'll lose is if all of our mice are captured at the same time, or if the hourglass token advances all the way to the end on the story control board. Now, there are some special rules for the tile that we're going to start on, and for one, if we do a search on this space, and we are successful, we will find the Tinkerer's Tools, which is one of the search cards. So we can just go into the search deck and find that automatically. And that card allows us to search for a weapon or armor of our choice. Also, we have special surge rules for this particular tile. Remember, a surge is triggered when the minion cheese wheel fills up with these cheese tokens here. And instead of having to look at an encounter card, which is what you'd normally do to see what the surge effect is, for this particular tile, we'll be adding 2 rat warriors. So we certainly don't want a surge to happen if we can avoid it. Now, all of these special rules and conditions for the tile that are unique to this scenario are all covered in the chapter in the storybook. So you don't have to worry about trying to memorize all of that. The storybook will tell you what you have to do in each particular tile if there are any additional special rules. Now what I'd like to do, though, is show you guys the different heroes that we've picked and their weapons and starting equipment and their abilities, so you're familiar with all the different things that we'll be able to do in our playthrough. So first up we have Colin. He's the prince to the king. He is both the leader and warrior class, and what that means is he'll be able to use weapons and armor and equipment and abilities that match either of those classes. He also has the 4 basic stats that all of the hero mice have, and we went over these already in the instructional video, except for one of them. The one with the leaf symbol, that's known as lore. And that we'll talk about when it comes up in the game. Occasionally a card or ability will ask you to roll your lore dice rather than one of the other stats. He also has an ability known as Born to Lead. So anytime you're laying out the initiative cards on the story control board and Prince Colin is not in the first topmost position, he automatically gets to add a cheese token to his stash. He also has some starting equipment, Colin's sword and the leather breastplate. Let's take a look at those. So Colin's sword gives him an additional die anytime he does a melee attack. And his leather breastplate will give him an additional die anytime he has to roll defense. Now we also get to choose an ability for each of our heroes, and it can be any ability from those available as long as it matches the hero's class. And we chose this one called Give Order. Now we can use this ability instead of moving Colin, and that will allow us to choose a mouse on the same tile as Colin, and the chosen mouse may immediately perform one action. So for instance, we could give up Colin's movement to let another mouse do an attack. And just so you know, we're going to try to end every episode so you guys will be able to help us make decisions about what Colin does in each new episode. Next up we have Meganos. He's a mystic class, and he has the draw power. So when attacking, Meganos receives 2 cheese for each cheese that he rolls on a die instead of the usual 1. He also starts with his staff. Now the staff will give him an additional die anytime he makes a ranged attack, but also when he's attacking a figure that's on the same space as him, the staff is considered a blunt melee weapon. So he has the option to both do ranged attacks or melee attacks. He also has the special ability Mystic Bolt. Now we can use this ability instead of performing a normal battle action with him, and instead we get to choose a minion that is on the same tile, and then that chosen minion is attacked by this mouse with a ranged attack. And the battle value of the attack is equal to the mouse's lore. So remember we talked about this lore stat. Here's a situation where you'd be able to use it. And Meganos' lore stat is actually 3, which is a lot higher than his normal attack battle value, which is 1. Now from our last fundraiser, we have some viewers who became playmakers. And we're going to give those viewers the option first to control Meganos and what he does during a particular play between episodes. But if we don't get a submission from our playmakers, the rest of our viewers will still be able to help decide what happens with him. Next we have Nez, who is both a Tinkerer and Warrior class hero, and he has fierce resistance, which means he cannot be stunned or webbed. He starts the game with his hammer, which gives him an additional 2 die to roll when he does a melee attack. However, when he's attacking a figure with the hammer that's on the same space as him, because he's not able to build up that full swing with the hammer, he's only going to get to add an additional 1 die instead of the usual 2. Also, we gave him the ability Battle Squeak. Now, he can use this anytime during his turn, and then until the end of that turn, whenever he makes a melee attack, we get to add 1 to his battle value during that attack. And Nez is going to be controlled by Luke during the playthrough. And I'm going to be controlling Tilda, the final hero in our adventure. She's a healer, and she has the special Draw Empathetic Power ability. So when another mouse on the same tile becomes poisoned, stunned, cursed, or webbed, I get to immediately add 1 cheese to Tilda's stash. And she starts with both her mace and the leather breastplate. Now the leather breastplate we saw already, again it just gives 1 additional defense anytime she's rolling to defend against an attack. But her mace, when attacking with it, she gets to add 1 to the mouse's battle value for each wounded mouse that is on the same space as Tilda. We also gave her Major Heal. Now, unlike the other abilities, this one actually costs 2 cheese in order to activate, but we get to use this as an action. And then we can choose 1 mouse that's on the same space as Tilda, or a space that's adjacent to her, and then remove up to 2 wound markers from the chosen mouse, or we can choose 2 mice, either on the same space or adjacent, and remove 1 wound from each. So these are the mice that we'll be using during our adventure. There are 2 other hero mice that come in the game. One of them is Filch. He's your thievish rogue type character, and we could have swapped him in for any one of these 4 heroes. The other one is Lily. Now Lily you're not allowed to use during the first chapter. Instead, She appears under special circumstances during the second chapter's adventure, but I don't want to spoil all of that for you. You'll have to find out for yourself. One thing I do want to tell you about, though, are the individual achievements. These are listed on the back of the rulebook. And these aren't achievements that are just bragging rights that the mice can earn during the game. Instead, they also unlock a special ability for your mouse during that game that you're playing. So let's take a quick look at those now. So what I'd like to do here is just read over how you accomplish these different achievements rather than read to you the effect or the bonus that you get from having them. If you want, you can pause the screen though and read those for yourself. So the first thing we have here is the Cheese Master achievement. So if you roll at least 3 sides of a dice during attack or defense that have the cheese symbol on them, you will obtain this achievement. Next we have the Roach Master. If you're the first mouse that defeats 4 roaches in a single encounter, then you get this token. The Poison Master is the first mouse that has 1 unhealed poison token on them when they become captured. The Scaper achievement goes to the first mouse that is captured twice in a chapter. So even when bad things happen to you in the game, sometimes you learn things from those bad experiences and they unlock special bonuses for you. Lastly, we have the Cat Tamer. The first mouse that defeats Brody earns this particular achievement. Alright, so now the next thing we have to do is take the initiative cards. We have 1 for each of our hero mice, as well as 1 for the rat warriors. And then we need to shuffle these up, and that way we're going to be in random order when we deal them out onto the initiative track. We're going to start at the top, and the first one is Meganos, our mystic. The second one, Colin, the prince. The Rat Warriors are next. And then we have Nez, which again, that's going to be controlled by Luke. And then lastly, we have Tilda, which I'm going to be controlling. So that's the order. First was Meganos, then Colin, the Rat Warriors, then Nez, and then Tilda. And remember Colin's special ability that gives him a cheese token anytime he's not in the topmost position when placed on the initiative track. Okay, so this actually works out really well because we're going to end the episode right here, and the first mice heroes that are up to act are Colin and Meganos, the viewer-controlled mice. So what I want you guys to do is to think about what you'd like Colin to do on his turn, and then put your suggestions in the YouTube comments below. If you like what someone suggested, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like it so much, provide your own suggestion. Maybe you'll get some thumbs up, and we'll go with whatever gets the most votes. Now remember, the Meganos character, I'm going to go to our playmakers and see if they have some suggestions for that. If you want, though, you can definitely propose what you think Meganos should do. Maybe one of our playmakers will use that as inspiration. Or if we don't get a submission from them, we'll use possibly one of your submissions for Meganos. Of course, Luke and I will show up in the next episode, and we'll be controlling the other 2 heroes, and those Rat Warriors are going to be attacking us too. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask in the comments below. I answer every question that we get as soon as I'm able. I hope you'll join us in the next episode. Until then, thanks for watching.